Okay, today we're going to talk about who the stars favor in the coming election. Do the star alignments say anything about Donald Trump? Kamala Harris?
Yeah, which one's going to win?
Yeah. All right, but I want to start off with this first. Is there anything about past election cycles and star alignments then that can help us figure out the answer to this question? And keep it really simple for me.
Okay, good question. Because there was a previous election cycle that has a very similar alignment. In fact, an exact same alignment as this one.
Okay.
Because, and that would be Jupiter and Gemini. Gemini is kind of the trickster. I want to talk about some history of kind of where the meaning of that constellation came from, and why we're putting so much emphasis on this one is that Jupiter kind of expands, it kind of brings in, and some people even call it the king planet. So who are we making king? Who are we making president, right?
So let me get this straight. Jupiter's in Gemini right now?
Yeah, it's already in there, and it's a slow mover, so we're in that season.
It takes a while to get through Gemini.
Yes, and it is going to be in Gemini during election day too.
And there's a time where it was in the same spot before, even though it's slow moving? Just recently?
No. Like right now, it's already in Gemini.
Okay. So
and it's still going to be in Gemini come November 5th, 2024.
How about previous cycle then that you're comparing?
The previous cycle, it's funny because we had another election not too many years ago that had the same star alignment, and that would be the presidential election of 2012.
Okay.
Barack Obama versus Mitt Romney.
Okay, this is fascinating.
And
Let's
so
dive right in.
we need to kind of talk about some of the events of the world there, right?
Okay, yeah, but before we get into that, you were talking about giving us some background on these signs and breaking that down for us. So tell me a little bit about Jupiter again and how we can understand these symbolically.
Well, Jupiter, as I said, kind of expands, it grows, it brings in, it makes bigger those things, those themes. So we should kind of go into Gemini, and we need to understand Gemini better, because then we can see kind of what's happening in the present and that what we're kind of also going into and what season we're kind of going to be in. And that would be one thing that we'll put a picture up here for you. Gemini, if you look at the Gemini constellation, it is two twins. And if you look very closely at one of their heels is an extra star.
All right. And what does that mean?
If you go back to the Bible story of Jacob and Esau, who are vying for who's going to become the chosen one to have the birthright, there's this feud between those two brothers for that special position.
Oh, didn't he grab his heel on the way out of the womb?
Yes, Esau came out first out of the womb, and Jacob came following, holding onto his heel, and they were twins.
All right,
Gemini is the twin, and it has an extra star at the heel. And so this Bible story is actually carrying forth the meaning of the sign Gemini. Gemini is an air sign, and it's the mutable, ever-changing air sign. And in that, it's the most unstable of all energies.
Okay, so there seems to be a lot of instability in Jacob's life. And they were at odds with each other for the whole time too. Are you saying that that's kind of symbolic as well?
Yeah, so a few things we should glean from that story is they weren't just vying for the birthright, but there's trickery and they're switching things up, back and forth.
Oh, wow.
He, by his father-in-law, is raising his father-in-law's sheep, and he gets tricked into doing it for many more years than he wanted to. And he ends up making a deal that, okay, I get the speckled ones, you get the pure ones, and then he breeds them to make the speckled ones more powerful.
Oh, and that's not all. I mean, he was tricked as well, and he's tricking other people at other times.
Right. Think about...
This is all over the place.
Yes, think about this. You have this archetype where this theme where he makes this arrangement to marry his wife, but instead the older sister gets into the tent. He makes love to the older sister.
Yeah, Laban tricks him.
And then he's married to that one, because that's their marriage ceremony, is consummating in the tent, right?
Right.
So he consummates in the tent to the wrong sister, not to the love of his life. Therefore, he's with that one, and he has to work longer for the other one.
Yeah.
You notice how there's a switcheroo.
Is this his comeuppance, though? He was tricking Esau out of the birthright for a bit too, wasn't he?
Yeah, then you have that too. Once again, the father's going to give the birthright blessing to the older son Esau, who was older by minutes, seconds, right? And he dresses up, makes himself furry he makes himself furry like his brother, and then tricks his dad into, with his mom's help, of course, into giving him the birthright blessing.
If you were telling a story and trying to develop a theme, I can't see how anyone could do it better than to keep hitting on these elements over and over.
Yeah, and so what's happening in past election cycles, it goes back to like what Mitt Romney was even known for. A lot of people talked about him switching around his views.
Oh, so you're drawing the Gemini parallel to Mitt Romney to some
Not
degree?
only that, he is what is called a Gemini rising.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So he has the outward persona of the switcheroo, the person that like can flip from one side to the other, the unstable personality, the one that can have one narrative and then flip to another narrative.
So didn't they also like catch him behind the scenes saying some things opposite to his public persona as well too?
Yes, so he ran in a liberal state, or what we'd call liberal, or more of a heavy Democratic state, Massachusetts.
Right.
He was the governor of there, and he had to play like he was very close to a Democrat, right?
This is working to his advantage at this point.
Yes, and he wins. He becomes the governor, and he wins.
Okay.
And then he comes over to run for the Republican Party, and he sounds like the most hardcore Republican you've ever heard, all the way far right.
I never put these things together.
But he's the Gemini, and once again, he's Gemini rising too.
Right.
Meaning he has the outward persona of the trickster.
You've completely changed my view of him.
Sorry. So it's known as a witty sign. It's a fun sign. And also when he's running for nomination with the Republican Party back in the summer months, you have, and because he's a first decan, Gemini rising, meaning he's one of the first few degrees of that.
Yeah, and you were just talking to me another time about this, right? And so this is more to the self?
Yes, so he's geared with a more focus on self, and probably not naturally geared to like always be in the public limelight. He practiced he practiced with speech and got good at that, but he was more kind of the type that naturally worked kind of better behind the scenes.
Could that be some of his kind of stepping on his own toes a little bit?
Yeah, he had some struggles in getting to the top of political offices too.
Because, you say he's witty, and I think that's true, but then he's often tripped on himself too, so.
Yeah.
That kind of explains it when you put both in perspective.
Yeah, and in regards to Mitt Romney is Jupiter, when Jupiter comes into the Gemini sign, it came into Gemini in June of 2012.
Okay.
And so it's hitting really close. And let's explain this in a way. If you take the wheel of all the stars when Mitt Romney's born, and then you take the current stars that were there at the time and you overlaid them and you just pasted them together to see how they aligned.
Yeah.
His rising, the time of his birth, was right there, like close to on the spot of what Jupiter was, right on the spot of his rising of his birth.
Okay.
Which is a good omen to his outward persona, its growth, its expansion. And during that time is when he wins the Republican nomination. He had a very good, powerful alignment, the most powerful alignment you could have to win the nomination when he did.
From his birth situation with the star alignments to
what the current stars were.
Current stars were at 2012 time
in the summer of 2012.
In the summer of 2012.
Because you had Jupiter and his rising both in first decan Gemini.
Okay.
The first 10 degrees of Gemini.
And we're talking 2012 to 2024, just to tie it back for the listeners, where Jupiter is slow, but it is getting around to a similar spot as it was back then.
Yes, yes. So my point is he had the powerful omen, and this is going to relate to one of the candidates we're talking about.
Okay.
So we're going somewhere with this.
This isn't just a time period, it's also the person connected to the time period and their personal star alignments.
Yes, and my big question is when you the people that pick these people for offices, do they plan and look at the stars?
Well, and it seemed like there's a lot of coincidences. I mean, it's one thing for the timing to be the same because it comes back around in a cycle. That's expected. But if there's people connecting to it in similar ways, you've got one more layer of evidence. And this is interesting to me.
Yes, I find this very interesting.
Okay.
So he has this powerful alignment during the nomination, but Jupiter moves out of place by the time we get into November, and he loses his power.
Oh my gosh, you're kidding me.
Because it gets too much of a spread. He doesn't hold that. Jupiter doesn't stay still. And he took this exact conjunction, his great power, during the alignment of the primaries. And then it spreads, and Barack Obama is what you would call an Aquarius rising. Okay. And he has a later sign of Aquarius, meaning I can't remember, he was a second or third decan Aquarius. Okay. A little more better at being in the public, a little more fluid, better speaker.
That tracks, even if you don't like him. That's true.
Yeah, like very likable person. And Barack Obama's chart's probably a pretty fun one to explore another day because he's two opposites. He has that Leo inner core, and Donald Trump has a Leo rising, to where the Leo can be kind of like a brat publicly. It cares more about authenticity. So Barack Obama's got this core of like being very authentic to his buddies, if that makes sense. But then he's Aquarius rising, which is more of an appropriate sign, a more of like one that blends in with the people, is like one of the people, right?
Oh, so he's got the tact that the Don does not have.
Yes, he's the opposite outward persona as Donald Trump.
Oh, that's right. It's the exact opposite on the other side.
He may act behind closed door like Donald does outwardly. I hate to break that to people.
I wonder how he would feel at having that kind of connection to one of his opponents.
Yeah, well, Leo and Aquarius, I love both those signs, so I'm sure Barack Obama's a fun guy. We got to look at what happened there in that election, and I think we'll understand the election that we're going forward into.
Yeah, connect the dots for us.
Jupiter moves, and it's moving, and it moves in towards the rising of Barack Obama, to where he gains his power.
Oh, they're passing the torch whether they like it or not.
So it doesn't go into a direct alignment,
okay,
but it goes into a similar degree in Gemini, which is an air sign, and Aquarius, his outward persona, is an air sign. So it does what is a good omen called a trine. It makes a triangle. When you overlay the stars, Jupiter, the omen of blessings, prosperity, makes a triangle with Barack Obama's outward persona, his outward public face.
Okay. So let me get this straight. So you're not saying that Jupiter is getting into the Aquarius sign, but as it leaving moves its influence and whatever
near where it blessed Romney,
was for blessed Romney, then it's getting to something that trines the Aquarius wind sign for Obama.
Yes, meaning it makes a 120-degree angle, because that's the angle of a triangle. Triangle, 360 degrees divided up 3 times is 120. And what you get there is it becomes like it pings off of the energy of Barack Obama at that time. And what happens? Once again, it's an expansion of air, okay? That's what Jupiter in Gemini means. It's expansion of air. Expansion of moving air.
And it harmonizes with his air.
And what happened within the week before the election? Hurricane Sandy, moving air.
You're bringing in other current events? It's like the rest of them are speaking the same story.
Moving air comes in, and Barack Obama, once again, he's the outward persona of Aquarius, which is Aquarius rising, is the humanitarian, the one that cares about the small people.
Oh, and they had all of the health insurance legislation going on at that time. Supreme Court validated it, some of his major points, even though some things were changed a little bit later on.
Yeah, a lot of things worked in his way, but he handled Hurricane Sandy really well, and he came across as a humanitarian. And Mitt Romney, who had the persona of being the rich man, looked disconnected, like he didn't care.
Interesting.
And that affected the election. Romney was getting really close. Like, it would have been a close election. Romney possibly could have beat him.
Well, I'm getting antsy. So, do you have any more points on this, or are we ready to get to today?
We can get to today.
Okay.
But my point
Finish
is,
your thoughts.
my finishing thoughts on that is that air, it was an air expansion of air in the stars in the heaven, hit a good angle with Barack Obama, and it caused events to happen, which caused a blessing and a triumph of Barack Obama.
Yeah, this is the first time I'm hearing this from you, and I'm fascinated. You have the cycles are similar to today, but then you've got the individuals involved are connected, and you have natural events connecting.
Natural
as
events
well.
connecting.
You've got 3 points here.
Okay.
So how are you gonna connect all that to today? Can you pull it off?
Okay. Once again, we have Jupiter and Gemini.
Okay. That one's a given. Yeah, it makes sense. I was with you in the beginning.
Okay, let's go back. We're going to tie back into Jacob and Esau.
Okay.
Because you've asked me, the question is that you're posing to me is who's going to win?
Right.
Kamala Harris or Donald Trump? Right?
Yeah. Now I want to know. Can I see the envelope before you give an answer?
I kind of hate the question, to be honest.
Okay.
Because I was getting asked this question with Biden, and it felt like, and with Biden, I could say, Trump's definitely got the greater edge when it comes to the stars.
Oh, so something was off?
Because his sun is in Gemini,
Okay.
and it's coming in more alignment now.
Biden's son?
Donald Trump's. Donald Trump
Trump's
had
son.
the better alignment to beat Biden.
Okay.
But also it felt insecure. And I said privately, like weeks and weeks ago, they go, who do you think's going to win the election? Somebody asked me on the air that, and then I got thinking about it. I'm like, it just feels unstable. It feels like don't trust anything. You know,
that's what I was
I
saying.
couldn't
You
even
felt
give an
something
answer,
was off.
even though I felt like the
Because of the way
sun
things
favored.
looked.
Donald's sun sign is aligning. His inner core, inner ego, his power is kind of coming into alignment.
Uh-huh.
And that is a really good omen. But I wouldn't say that was the best omen. Yeah, sun sign aligning, I would say, is the third best omen you could have if you were going to win.
Oh, really? Well, that's what most people look at.
And so I got
that's interesting.
Donald Trump is like the third best possibility of winning. Donald Trump has a really good chance of winning compared to most people with their alignments if they were to be put in against him.
And this is when you're looking at it before.
Yeah, he would have smoked
he's
Biden.
against Biden, and a lot of people look at the sun sign, but you're going into deeper astrology.
Yes, I'm going into deeper stuff because go back to Jacob and Esau.
Okay.
There was a switch out. What happened? What happened? Biden got switched out for Harris.
Isaac switches his hands.
Biden and Harris get switched out.
Oh.
I was predicting that privately. I don't even think Biden's going to be running. You're asking me the wrong question. I don't think Biden's going to stay in. I've been saying that for
you're
weeks.
kidding me. Okay.
Because I understand the thing in the Gemini. It's the switching out.
Well, some might say that there might have been the writing on the wall for that anyway, but you're seeing the writing in the stars.
Yes, because that's the theme of Gemini.
Okay.
It's the instability.
Right.
And right now, Jupiter's going forward in its strength, meaning
Whatever it's passing,
there's
it's
switching out,
expanding.
there's tricking, there's things seeming unstable.
It's expanding this trickery, expanding this instability.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that worries me because there's a lot of political upheaval where people question elections. And I know we can't go into that much on YouTube, but there seems to be like this strong duality, which is another theme of Gemini, is the idea of good and evil. And so we're seeing these themes grow where both sides think the other one's evil or the other one's stupid, and their side's the good side.
They're bringing up a lot of moral issues, or at least moral values, at this election, aren't they?
Yeah.
Used to be favored, as the stars showed, but now
Definitely against
now that
Biden.
he's got Kamala against him, where are you going with that?
This is the thing. She's also a Gemini rising, meaning her outward persona is meaning her public profile.
Now, how's it going to be different for her as a Gemini rising versus Mitt Romney? Or is it going to be different?
Her alignment is disputable, but she is about 4 or 5 degrees off of the perfect alignment with Jupiter on aligning on our ascendant. So this is where astrologers may differ. They consider within 3 degrees of conjunction.
Okay.
Other astrologers consider within 5 degrees of conjunction.
And I've heard that before, so it's not necessarily perfected. Is that the term?
Right.
But
That's
you've got it really, really close to being in the same spot, which is a conjunction.
Yes. So if I was running for office and I wanted to win,
respective spots in the universe, but from our perspective, they're looking like they're aligned.
Yes. If you go with the 5 degree thought, if you're going with a strict 3 degree conjunction, she just misses it.
Okay. So she's between 3 and 5?
Yes.
Okay.
She's more like 5.
Okay.
Closer to 5, 4 or 5, not 3.
Does this work in her favor?
Well, that's the thing. If I had to choose, like, would I rather have that alignment with my sun like Donald Trump, or would I rather have that alignment with my rising, my outward persona,
the deeper astrology?
Yeah. If I have that alignment on my public persona, I would rather have the public persona,
Especially in an election,
an election. Yes.
because that's all about your public front.
Yeah. So Jupiter aligning to the sun, like with Donald Trump, could be like, oh, I feel like I won. It's an inner thing. It could be ego. The sun could be ego. It could just be ego pumping him up like, oh, I totally won. They cheated. Right? But the outward persona is like, it looks like you won.
So
The public thinks you won.
now I see how this could be a little bit different than Mitt Romney, because you did talk about Mitt Romney being favored in the beginning with this alignment. So how is it moving for Kamala? Is it going to move to favor her or move away and disfavor her at a certain point? How are we getting to the election day? How are we getting to election day?
Okay, this is where when we're moving towards election day.
So she's got a conjunction, which sounds good. But there's some movement.
Yes, so let's clearly state that Kamala Harris is a 24 degree ascendant in Gemini.
Okay.
So we're looking for the number 24.
Okay.
And
Where
Donald
Jupiter
Trump is a sun that is 22 degrees.
Okay.
Okay.
And he's Gemini?
Gemini, both Gemini sun, and then Kamala
Gemini
Harris is a
rising.
Gemini rising.
Okay.
And if we look at this,
It sounds like the race. They could be neck and neck.
no,
They've got 2 favoring signs. Which one's going to be the right one?
November 5th. Okay, November 5th
All right.
is 20 degrees. Gemini, Jupiter in Gemini.
Okay.
Jupiter is what's going to grow and
Getting
expand.
closer to the 24. Is it going
So-
towards the 24 or away from the 24?
This is the thing; it goes in retrograde. So election day, it's in retrograde. Jupiter starts to lose its power.
Okay.
Because it goes in retrograde, it loses its power, or things manifest slower. Now, I hate that. I hate it. I hope it's not a drawn out election. I hope we have an answer that night. I hope it's clear and cut. But Gemini sometimes makes it
More trickery.
looser, like unstable. It's the most unstable sign of everything. So that worries me. What makes me feel better about it is that it's in retrograde. It lessens its power.
Oh, okay.
So here it is. It's 20 degrees.
20 degrees.
Donald Trump's at 22. He has the better degrees. If we're looking at just that one sign,
Okay. Just for the sun sign for him.
it's a stronger alignment, but it's on his inner core.
Yes.
She's at the outer core. It's on 24. It's 4 degrees away.
Okay.
And you know how these things sometimes get drawn out if that does happen?
Yeah.
And I've been trying to look ahead, and it goes in retrograde. And by the end of November, it lessens all the way to 17 degrees, which is still within 5 degrees of the Donald.
All right. Just to give a visual for the listeners, this is retrograde. It's moving towards this favorability, and then
Both of them.
It is starting to back off at the retrograde and goes back to 17 eventually by the end of November. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
This is crazy. So now I feel like we're not even going to know. Have you made a decision on what you think it's going to do? On who it's going to favor?
I've been doing the Gemini thing, going back and forth. Like you asked me like yesterday, I said, if I was going off of pure astrology,
Yeah.
I may have picked Kamala. And now looking at the degrees a little closer, I started to lean a little bit more towards Trump.
That's what I thought I heard you saying, because you're talking about the it's going to favor the rising sign because that's more connected with elections. But as you look at the degrees, you've got some favorability towards Trump, and it's backing off on Kamala a little bit.
It is, and since he has a lower degree, it gives him a little more power.
Right.
And it may be one of those things where he fights and maybe possibly gains power. But one thing there's a couple other omens we got to take a look at.
Okay.
Just to show you how like accurate stars are. Saturn's been in Pisces. Saturn's the father, okay?
Well, so far I got to say that the drama in the sky is as intense as the drama on the ground. So, but let's hear some more.
Saturn is the father of the zodiac.
Okay.
And it's in right now, and Saturn's usually a bad omen. It's where something bad's happening.
Yeah,
it's
I understand restrictions or...
And it's causing
boundaries,
problems in the world, right?
Okay.
And
challenging.
Pisces, one of the archetypes of Pisces, which it's in, is...
Saturn's in Pisces, okay.
And Pisces can represent mental illness or like decline, the end of somebody.
Oh, especially when you restrict it like that with a Saturn.
Yeah, and Saturn's also a father energy. Think about Biden, supposedly the most powerful guy in the world, right? And he's the father of the nation,
government,
and he's dealing with mental issues. So
Pisces backtracking.
Yeah,
with Saturn.
So that theme's coming up. We also have Mars in Gemini right now, and Mars brings action into the Gemini trickery, switch them up.
We got the Jupiter expansion, and now you've got the Mars action in Gemini.
Yeah, so we have Mars and
back over there as well.
Yeah, we have Mars and Jupiter there, and we've dealt with this whole change out of candidates.
Saturn's over in Pisces. Mars and Jupiter are chilling over in, not really chilling, they're just sparking things over in Gemini.
Okay. Yes, and that's why we've probably seen the switch out happen now, just recently, right?
Action.
Yes, because we're bringing expansion and action of that theme back in. So that's
a changeable sign.
In a changeable sign.
Wow.
So those themes are happening in the stars. We're watching them live. And yeah.
So astrologically, who does this put points on the scoreboard for? With Saturn, adding Saturn and Mars into the mix with your observations.
Yeah, so that's about current events. So let's talk about what Mars does come November 5th.
Okay.
It changes positions into a different sign November 5th. So I hope I'm not giving away secrets to the candidates, but before March 5th, on March 4th, and like the month or two before, it's in Cancer. Cancer is about like wanting to feel safe.
Okay.
So where our emotions go right before the election is going to be like, they're going to be probably drawn to the candidate that's going to make us feel more safe.
Because it's a fighting topic with Mars in that areas. You want to be winning.
Yeah, and there may be
winning for safety for things like that.
And it could be that like one person pops ahead in the polls and you start feeling like, oh, we got this in the bag. There could be some of that. But on election day, Mars goes into Leo, which is a fire sign. Think about fire and what that can mean.
Oh my gosh. So you're saying you've got some Cancer, mother of the zodiac energy for Mars, but at the election day, we're switching out to Leo.
Yes, and Leo carries the archetypes of like children, joy, celebration, but it also has the archetypes and themes of drama, anger, fury. So
yeah, and I know who you're talking about.
So, well, who fits the theme better on election day? So let's ask you, the listeners, that. Who fits that theme better if they win?
Yeah, write that in the comments.
Who causes more celebration, more on one side and more drama on the other side?
Huh. So, fitting with the Gemini theme, you've got kind of both contrasts going. Celebration on the one side and drama on the other.
Yeah, so it carries both those themes. There's a lot of energy election day. Election night, election day. There's going to be a season of like, there's going to be some strong emotions there.
This could be combustible.
And it's very combustible. There is a part that is kind of an intangible, and we'll have to be careful in talking about the subject. But I'm talking about this in a star knowledge, astrological, astronomical sense, right? But there is some more things that are in play than just the stars. And I want to go into that. When Donald Trump lost the election before,
Okay.
what happened is there was a lot of, we had some friends that had some weird theories, like Donald Trump's still in control. He's going to show that he really won. And I was not buying it.
Okay.
If I'm just going to be honest. I always have fun having friends that will check out those deep mysteries, right? But I'm a little slower to like bite on everything. I try to keep an open mind. I have fun hearing all the theories, right?
Yeah, you are pretty grounded. You'd like to align things up with something you can have a ruler on.
That you can measure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of building in my life, and I go by my ruler. Okay, what can I measure?
It's your construction of astrology.
Yes. So there were some things happening during that. There was a plague released and an airborne virus at a certain time of the year.
This is 2020.
Yeah, and then you move into fires getting lit in the summer, and there was fires and riots.
Yeah.
And Donald Trump was seemingly playing defense.
Okay.
He seemed like he didn't have full control of them. And with the things that I've studied, I'm like, these are ritualistic. The people that are organizing these things know what they're doing. They're hitting these, they're aligning the right elements on the four quarters. And like, there's some very esoteric people behind the scenes instigating this stuff. It has all the markers of organization.
Oh, what events were instigated?
Like the BLM riots.
Oh, yes.
The fires getting lit. And I was looking at the dates and the alignments that they were doing all these things under. And I'm like, oh, okay. The powers that are fighting Donald Trump are organized, and he seems like he's playing defense, and they're doing ritual on him.
So to an astrologer's view, this looks calculated to some
It
degree.
looked calculated, like the timing of all those events.
Okay.
And so it's looking back, it's not a surprise that he got removed from office.
Whether it's conscious or not, there's a lot of coincidences.
Yeah, it didn't look like he was in control of things.
Okay.
And that was my perspective. It was my perspective that he was not in control of things. Now, this time around, I don't know. I know there's people that come up with, once again, theories. And like he had an incident where his life was almost taken. He simply turned his head at the right time, grazed his ear. And if you're looking, and Jonathan Cahn's done some videos on this, and he made the point that that the ear and the blood on the ear was a symbol of an anointing, because Aaron would get blood put on his ear back in Levitical times, Aaron and his sons, and that was a way of his anointing. So, and there would be 3 spots that they would put blood on: the ear, the hand, and the feet.
Yep.
And if you noticed, what he was worried about after the shooting was, I want my shoes. If you get the audio, he's like, I want my shoes. He's reaching for his shoes, and he has blood on his hands.
Odd. Yeah.
He got blood on his shoes. And
he gets it on his thumb and he gets it on his toe.
yes. So where rituals kind of aligned against Trump the first time, he has the rituals aligning on him this time. So when I look at that event, and I'm not saying this in any prophetic way, I'm not claiming anything, but ritualistically something happened there where he took all the anointings from the Bible. And I know people have their different feelings on that, but the feet are symbol of the constellation Pisces. See, our feet look like fish we're walking on. The feet are Pisces, right? And they're a symbol of the heavenly realms. When the sun goes through Pisces, it takes us to the plane of light. It takes us to a new kingdom, and where there is triumph.
Okay.
That's the sign that takes you to triumph, and that takes you to the head. And once again, you start at the top.
Oh, you started with Aries.
And then the symbol of the hand is the sun, the power of God when you go into esoteric teaching. So
Okay.
there's some strong ritual that I think happen there. And that is like, so like to have a bullet that close to the head, that is nuts. And for him to be alive, it seems like there's like a miracle in itself on that. So my general like sense feelings that like I lean towards Trump probably winning because of the ritualistic stuff that's happened. If we were to pull, and maybe we can put both charts up for them.
Yeah, I want to hear
Where
people
it
think
show-
in the comments too.
Yeah, I'll show both these charts right here. But on both these charts, they both look like spaghetti to me. The blue lines are generally positive, harmonious energies, just generally speaking, depending on which planet's connecting. And the red lines are generally friction, like going against energy. It's hard to obtain things. It's struggle, whatever.
Got it.
I think they both look somewhat similar. We could spend another episode if people really want going into the more details on this, but ultimately they both have good and bad energies. And I do see that the natural path of both of them winning, but ultimately because of the ritual, I have a little bit leaning towards Donald Trump for that reason. Not necessarily because of astrology.
But things are still pretty close with a lot of the signs. There's the things with tension going both ways. Can you see it going both ways, or do you think there is a good enough couple of things stacked towards Trump, according to what you say?
It is more nuanced. I do think if we're looking just at the Jupiter alignment, I think where it lands on Kamala favors her. How it's a closer degrees on Trump, it favors Trump. But there's other alignments there, if we were to get more into the details of it, that makes it look like Trump could be pretty upset on election night about something that could be with losing. So I definitely see that path if I'm looking at it as just like an astrologer. I could see Trump upset and not winning, looking at his stars or feeling like he's cheated. I can see that as an astrologer.
I feel like I want to tie a bow on this, but I want to ask if there's anything else you want to add to this.
I'd like to hear other people's predictions in the comments.
Okay, so you heard it here, folks. Look up to the sky. If you see some things going one way and then switching back to the other, you could probably follow along with some of the things that are happening with the star alignments.
Yes, and Gemini energy is the most unstable. Just because somebody's surging ahead in the polls one moment, it could change the next day.
But we had this happen before.
Yeah.
As you told us, we had this happen before in 2012. So if that's any indication on what could happen today, look more deeply into it. Put some questions in the comments. Let us know what you think. But I really appreciate the insights.